wherever you are watching this broadcast throughout the world, I hope you can hug a loved one close and thank God that you are not in Port-au-Prince tonight. This is just one block. The sun right here is just
The 7.0 quake hit this afternoon about 10 miles west of Haiti's capital city.
Throughout the port city.
After a second day with no food and no sign of help.
A video clip in which Anderson Cooper is showing us a bunch of Haitian men digging frantically to free a girl who is trapped underneath some rubble. Something just stuck in my heart as I watched this that seemed so wrong. My concern was we were watching a spectacle. It was just a reality TV show.
The media would say, oh, you know, we just heard that an earthquake has hit Haiti, which happens to be the most poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
There has been a huge earthquake, magnitude 7.0, just off the coast of Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, a place where infrastructure is incredibly weak.
Haiti can barely take care of its people under normal circumstances. I was there not long ago and saw how underdeveloped it is, with poorly constructed buildings that make people particularly vulnerable to a massive quake.
When people see that in the media and it's in a repetitive action, poor, that's all people see of the country. And so they automatically think that, oh, this country cannot withstand anything, this country cannot produce anything, this country cannot survive on its own, so they need the help, they need the saviors, the quote-unquote saviors, which America feels that they are.
Looking at the television, I was like, oh no, I don't know, should I go? And then other people were like, don't go, it's dangerous, it's violent, you'll never make it. And I heard that so often that 4 days later I was still paralyzed in fear watching the television.
With the smell of death and the stink of smoke, downtown Port-au-Prince now feels like a war zone. Gangs with machetes rule the streets here. Bodies are strewn everywhere.
There wasn't any violence. I didn't worry about being robbed. There wasn't anything going on there in terms of danger. And I realized that I had bought into the hype. And that's what kept me from coming. And the hype was just that, simply hype.
There was coverage in the United States that said, yes, the Haitian government disappeared and didn't do anything. And there was coverage that said the Haitian police disappeared and didn't do anything. And that was certainly my experience. That was true.
Did you see any evidence of police or any other law enforcement types?
We didn't see any police officers in that particular area.
We haven't seen a Haitian government response on any kind of large scale that is needed.
In a sense, the weak, corrupt Haitian government became almost the invisible Haitian government.
What was totally left out of that was, well, the U.S. has very strongly supported the current Haitian government, number one. Number two, the police force was reconstituted by the United States starting in 1994. Commissioner Kelly from the United States was an advisor. I think he's still an advisor to the Haitian police.
We have so many positive aspects of our culture that it's unbelievable that all that can be focused on is the corrupt government, and that it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And I'm not saying that it's not the poorest country, but there's something else going on. I mean, that's a blanket statement. Now, what's underneath the blanket?
Haiti, I would say, is a special country. This is the country with a history of blacks taken from different parts of the world to the Caribbean, the place called Haiti, this mountainous island. So this slave will rise up against their master, and they will bring about the end of slavery. They will bring about the end of this atrocity against human race, and set the tone for the greatest revolution in human history.
And then in 1825, the French came back with their gunboats, surrounded the island, and demanded reparations for the loss of the income from slavery, which is about as outrageous as you can get.
To claim that money, and the mulatto leader was in charge, Jean-Pierre Boyer, now with the given to the French demand and has to pay and even pay more, had to borrow money to pay the first installment. So that money, equivalent to some billions of dollars, if we were to consider that, will impoverish, the existing weak country named Haiti.
More immediately, in the past 100 years, the history of Haiti has been domination by the United States. The United States invaded Haiti in 1914, ran the country directly from 1914 to 1934.
We've had, I can't count how many coups. We've had, I can't count how many different presidents, different cabinets. It's just always been a transition by force.
The message of the United States to the Haitian dictators is clear. Leave now, or we will force you from power.
Less than 9 months after Aristide took office, there was a military coup. It has a lot to do with U.S. power, because the people running this were connected with the U.S.
When we get it on our TV screens, all we get is, the results of policy. But it's not portrayed as results of policy, it's portrayed as this is the way things are.
The constant pounding of it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, it's the poorest country. Well, there are other things going on there. I mean, it's poor, but the people are still living, they're still surviving before and after the earthquake.
Haiti has been a laboratory for the U.S. economists and economists from Oxford and so on to try out their economic policies. They've tried them out. It's been a disaster. Haiti was a poor country before, but it's even poorer now, and it can't even feed itself now, which it could do before these policies started in the 1970s. And to top it off, the same media that blamed Haitians for their poverty now heavily promote a repeat of these policies. The new policies that are being pushed by the United Nations and by Bill Clinton are the same policies that got Haiti where it is now.
So I would like for, in this new day, for us to have another vision for people globally than what we are portraying as of now. And the earthquake really represents a misrepresentation of people.